Hello everybody, welcome back. Thank you as always for watching. This is now number 21 and I've been sat back thinking for the last couple of days new things that I could start looking at, and I think it would be good to spend a little bit of time trying to identify some definite progressions I've made or improvements, either in a technique or in a song. And I'm just going to try and pick out some things that I've learned over the 3 years I've been playing that kind of demonstrate how I've improved and what I've achieved by doing it and how it's helped. And tonight I'm looking at what I'm calling a 4-finger stretch on the frets, which came about in the learning the major scale shape, which I'll go into in a second. The song that I'm linking to this tonight is Back in Black by AC/DC, and also want to try and talk a little bit about why the problems that it presented for me and how I've partially at least overcome some of them, not all of them, I will add. Initially, I also hoped to be able to do a full play along of the song at the end of it. And when I recorded it and tried to upload, I got a copyright breach, came back from YouTube, so won't do the full song playthrough now. I'll just go through the notes of the thing at the end, and hopefully anybody that wants to try and learn Back in Black can, that this will be of some use to them. But first of all, let me just talk about the song itself and the problems I had with it. It's a great song, favourite song of mine. Brilliant album all through, Back in Black. First heard it, what did it come out? 1980, I think it came out. And I first heard it in 1981 on a school trip. A lot of the lads were into it, and I've been hooked ever since. Great band. And Back in Black, an iconic song on its own merit, and it was an obvious one. As soon as I really started going on this and starting to look at songs that I wanted to learn, that was right at the forefront of the ones I wanted to learn. But I had big problems with it right from the word go, and not least of which was the great bass riff in the opening 2 verses, where you're starting off on a B, you go down to a G sharp, then B to A, B to A sharp, and finally 2 Bs. And I couldn't reach properly, and what I certainly couldn't do was play it at the requisite speed to actually be able to play the song. I mean, I could go, but that wasn't a lot of use. So I was trying to make my own way with it, and it wasn't really going particularly well. And I found a website called talkbass.com, which is a very good place to be if you're learning. There's always loads and loads of experienced bass players logged into the forum, and you can just ask them questions, and they're always generally very helpful with their advice as soon as they get to read what you've asked. And I put the question on there: how do I go about playing the 7/4, 7/5, 7/6, 7/7 riff? A mistake, because at the time I'm going back here 2.5 years, and I was still thinking in terms of the tabs way of music being written, rather than thinking about the actual notes. If I went on there now, I would just say, how do I play B down to G sharp, B to A, B to A sharp, B to B. But at the time I just thought, because all tabs were written in terms of fret numbers, I thought that's the way that the bassists read their music. So I just ploughed straight into Talk Bass and said, how do I play 7/4? How would you play 7/4, 7/5, 7/6, 7/7? And just assumed that everyone knew what I was talking about. Nobody did. And they're all going, I don't understand what's it. And then one of them sussed it, and he says, oh, he means that he's talking about the frets. And once we got that one out of the way, then we all got on an awful lot better, and they were very helpful with their advice. Some of them said, well, why don't you try coming at it from the second string, playing the second fret. Still a big stretch in there though, and just as a personal preference thing, purely because it's the first way I ever read it, I prefer playing it all on the bottom string. I think I've got bassist's disease. What's that standing joke? How do you stop a bass player playing? Cut his E string. So I think I'm in that category, to be honest. I just play it on the lowest string available wherever practical. So I've always gone on E string, and probably always will, to be honest, because it's just the way I'm used to playing it. But back then, as I said, I couldn't make that reach, and I'd read technique about your hand has to be in the same place as much as possible. Am I even allowed? I was asking daft questions like, am I allowed to move my hand to play this thing? And yes, you are. The movement hand police aren't going to come out and make any arrests. Have you tried sliding? Which was the first time I'd come across the term at the time, and I was ending up going something like, and it sounded awful, and I was all over the shop with it. And it kind of stayed like that for well over a year, really. And then when I started going for lessons, and we got into some scales practice, and as I talked about in the scales video a while back, when I was playing scales, I was always starting the first note with my index finger. And then transferring index finger over to play the first note of the second string. But the first thing that Michael got me doing in my lessons was start your scale with your second finger, your middle finger, and then your third note in the scale is played by your index finger, and it should already be in position to play that note. And that way your scale playing starts to get much quicker, because you're making less finger movement. Your index finger is already in position to play it. And he referred to that as the major scale shape. And basically there, if I'm starting on a C, for example, going C to D, then D to E, I'm making a 4-fret stretch there. And it took me a good 2 or 3 weeks of solid practice to start making that reach. But once I got it, it helped me so much with my scales, and I suddenly realised, well, that's exactly what I've been trying to achieve with Back in Black. So from then onwards, I could play 7/4 as one stretch, and my hand doesn't have to move at all. So that became the first improvement that I got, and I'm much more comfortable with that now. What it also did was it highlighted the inconsistency of certain tabs themselves. Certainly of the songs that I've come across, which aren't that many, I suppose, 50 or 60 maybe, Back in Black is probably the most different number of variations that people have had in trying to explain what's going on. And there are some very accurate and very complicated ones, and there are some which are just openly downright wrong, to be honest. Even my inexperienced playing and ear, I can suss out that they're wrong. So what I've ended up doing with the tabs is kind of amalgamating them into one playable version of my own and use that, really. I hope it's close to the actual. I think it's reasonably close. Probably the purists might watch this and point out a few errors. So be it, I'll hold my hand up if that's the case. And finally, what it also did was help me with my playing speed, because when I was first playing it, the only way that I could, I'm sure you all know the song, the only way that I could really comfortably play those quick triplets was with a pick. It's really the song that got me into learning to play with a pick at all. And therefore these days I do tend to play it with a pick just out of habit more than anything. But as my technique has improved a little bit over the last couple of years, I have started to realise I can play it okay with just finger style as well, and sometimes I do play it like that just for good practice and reference back. I'll try and show you when I'm just going to go through the notes in a second. I think it's good to be aware of both here because, especially with an AC/DC song, it's got a very staccato feel to it. Quite a lot of DC music has, unless the notes are deliberately ringing, and there is a couple in Back in Black later on, but generally the notes are quite short and punchy. And so you've got to be really on the money with your muting technique when you're playing with your fingers, otherwise you'll end up with the song ringing out, the note ringing out much longer than you really need it to. But if you're playing it with a pick and you can get your palm muting with your right hand just at the right level, obviously if you've got your palm too close to the string, you can't hear anything at all. But if you've got the lightest of touches going on, it's enough to kill the ring, but you still get a thudding, staccato, short, full note. So as far as pick muting goes, playing with a pick, I think is actually a pretty good test playing Back in Black. But if you prefer, as always, to stick with your finger style, then just be aware that you've got to be bang on the money sometimes. Like when you're playing the open E to begin with, then your thumb's got to get straight down on it and kill it, because you're going straight into the other staccato-y notes as well. So it's a case of play it hard and then get straight down on it. And all that has kind of come together over the last 2 to 3 years, and I can play it an awful lot better these days, which I'm really, really happy about because I love playing the song. So I'm just going to close by giving you the general notes, and as I'm sure you've realised by now with my high-tech presentation, there is a notable lack of actual information at the bottom of the screen like the more advanced presenters have. So I do hope you can make a note of these and they help you to play through the song. What they do in the intro and both verses is exactly the same. It's a short E to begin with, then 2 sets of 3 on D and C sharp, then another short E, and then it goes into the 7/4, 7/5, 7/6, 7/7 riff. And at that point, we get into the kind of chorusy section, and this gets played several times throughout the song, and it more or less always goes the same way. Starts off on a B, plays 5 Bs, and then an A and back to B again. So that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then an open E and 4 As. Down to G and back to A again. Then 5 As, G, A. And then a slight change, they play just 5 notes where he goes A, E, B, A, B, and then back to the opening set of 5 Bs, an A and a B again. And then a bit of a mess round on G. And C, teeth in, C sharp, D to finish. So all of that together would sound like into verse 2 again, and you do all that chorus part again. And then there's the first of what we could call 2 bridge sections. Back to the open E. And what he's doing there, having played the 2 triplets, he plays 3 lots of 3 E's. The first and the third one are on the bottom string, and the middle one is on an octave up, so 7th fret of the 2nd string, for example. And that's a point where your muting really has to be short and snappy. And then that's E, A, E, A. And they do all of that right the way through the first bridge. Then it's back to that bit again. And then the second bridge is probably the point that I've struggled with the most over the years. I've played several versions of it, and I've tried to keep building up a little bit of new stuff from time to time. I think I'm in the ballpark now. I don't always get it right. It starts off with an open E, then it plays an open E again and goes as far as frets go, 0, 3, 5, 6, 7. But if we're playing the full thing, which I sometimes try to attempt, and sometimes it depends which way the wind's blowing really, and whether I'm feeling like I've got the gods with me on that particular day. When you played the open E, you go D, C sharp, B, C sharp on the 2nd string, and then the 5-note riff up the E string instead. So that would all sound like, play that a few times, then everything just moves up 1 string basically, and he plays an open A. And then one final one back to E again. And then it's back to etc, etc. And then finally, once you've gone, there's one lovely long ringing open A note, and you just let that one linger and then kill it, and you're straight back into the closing refrain. And that's basically all the notes to Back in Black. It's just a case of making a note of them, practicing them, putting them into the right order. Do have a go at it though, it's just a brilliant song to play along with. And I hope the message of the 4-fret stretch means something to you as well. Is if you're in the same boat that I was in, then really 3 frets is your absolute maximum, and you want to try and gradually work on extending the stretch of your fingers so that each of them covers 1 fret per finger, should you need to do so. And you've got the 4-fret stretch available to you. So I shall leave that one there, folks. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. Do please take care of yourselves and stay safe. I'll see you soon. Bye.